analysis program of the demo system uses the balances that were created in the posting program. One gets to choose how many years of data should be loaded into memory to analyze and choose a specific year. As the data is loaded, the system detects the top however many vendors by spend that someone wants to analyze. And then we're asked if we want to load the vendor table as well to analyze data by vendor IDs. As it's loading the data, here we're detecting that we have a new vendor that is a higher spend than the prior vendors that have been identified. So this read process will read all of the partitions for a particular year. There's 10 different partitions. So it will read the balances down from 9 down to 0 so that all the balances are loaded in memory. Once we have that loaded, then the system will also create a number of tables in memory that we'll be able to analyze. The in-memory tables that be created include the first 50 top vendors. We'll be able to analyze those balances to see what they look like. We'll also have all of the balances at the detail level, at the vendor level, that we'll be able to analyze as well, and their associated vendor attributes. The last table of in-memory data that will be created will be a summary that eliminates vendor as an attribute, but keeps all the other attributes that will be of interest. This table will be much smaller than the total number of balances, but includes things that are typically analyzed from financial data, particularly accounting data. So now we've finished loading all of the balances and the instrument data, and we've produced a first cut of data, which is the listing of the top 50 vendors by spend. You can see the vendor ID, the name, and the total spend for those vendors. Now if we go down and we choose one of these other options, we can get additional cuts of data off of the balances. See, we analyzed 50 records here. If we select option number 1 to do a legal entity trial balance, then the system will go against the about 100,000 record table, in-memory table, the last one of our memory structures, to produce a list of balances by legal entities or agencies, as the state of Virginia calls them. You can see here where we've done that analysis and we've summarized about 100,000 records. Now we can do option 2, which gives us a cut by center, and so we'll analyze that and ask the system to give us that cut. You can see how quick this returns a response of all the centers involved. Next we'll do a cut of the projects involved. Very similar to the other cuts. Again, this is going against the third data table, about 100,000 record table. The last cut we'll do is by accounts. So as we do that, you can see here are all of the counts. Okay, so now we see, this analysis is a useful analysis in summary, but in financial reporting we always want to understand more about the why. So what we're going to do here is we're going to produce the legal entity view, but we're going to do it off of the detailed data. So instead of doing it from a couple 100,000 rows of data, we're going to do it off of the million rows of the detailed balances. You can see here that we just got the response back. There's the million balances that we've summarized, and the view is the same as the one we produced off of the legal entity, off of the summary table. Now, so we've done it off of the detail. It's not all that much. There's no more new information here. We've just done it off of the detail. But if we do now the aggregation off of the detail on the million rows, and we also join to and pivot on the vendor table by the vendor type, now you can see that we're getting to new information that's not available because our legal entity summary doesn't have the attribute for the vendor type. That's on the vendor table. So in this summary, in the response time we just got back there, it's as if we had an Excel spreadsheet with 1,000,000 rows in it, and we wanted to produce a pivot table off of that, and one of the columns of our pivot is a VLOOKUP function to another tab of the spreadsheet that has 2 million vendors in it. This is a very significant sort of response time that I think you'd wait a long time for Excel to give that back. And yet it's very possible when you use the right techniques to do this kind of join and pivot against the data. To end the summary, here's the final statistics of what we analyzed. And we've been able to output a couple of CSV files that give us more data that we can analyze offline. This is my analysis engine built in Scala off of a posting engine process.